Hey guys, welcome back. It's the Sewer Rat Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Arctic Force, aka Sebastian.
I'm BDR Productions, aka Bill.
And today, I'm about to go off on a tangent about the US education system and about how bad it is.
Okay.
Completely god awful. So, I was an honor student growing up, right? And, we're always told, yeah, you're great, do it. Tell me why I was teaching class some of the times.
Well, what do you mean by that?
We got to a point where in my freshman geometry class that I was in, I was like, geometry was my thing. I was doing great at it. Like, I was working ahead because the math teacher looked at me and said, "You look bored. Go ahead, work ahead on it, and then we'll test it." I was getting like hundreds on everything. I was ready for it. He eventually pulled me aside one day. He's like, "How about, would you like to teach the next unit to the class?" And I said, "Okay." Just because there's nothing to push honors students to go above and beyond until like high school level, where your high school can offer something for it to send you off to college.
That's odd.
Yeah, I my high school, or at least my elementary and middle school had nothing for honor students to work ahead with. We just had the title of like honor students slapped onto the class, and it was still way too slow. Have you heard the term gifted kid burnout?
Oh, yes, I have.
That's because the US education system is absolute garbage at promoting anything great for people. So, do you know why it occurs?
Just go on and proceed.
So, gifted kid burnout typically occurs because as a student going through elementary, middle, high school, whatever, if you're a gifted student, you typically don't have to study for anything. I don't remember a
Hmm.
single time I studied during all of it.
Okay.
And that So basically you do school on easy mode for forever. And then once school actually gets hard, so like college level classes going over some things that are really complicated and you have to study, all these gifted kids, including myself, have no clue how to study. Never had to
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
before. Never learned any of these techniques because they're not taught in school. So what happens with all of us? We all start trying to like learn how to do everything that these people or everybody else in our classes have been doing for ages. And then we burn out because we've been throwing all our effort in, have no clue what we're doing until we just give up.
Hmm. Um, yeah, that is a thing that does happen because I think you know that I took honors classes all through high school, and I took one AP class, and yeah, that didn't go well. I passed it, just it didn't go well.
Yeah. Just the education system doesn't gear towards going into higher education. It gears towards getting everybody through it.
Well, hit the break the bad news, but the education system is catering you for being a worker, not
Yep,
a thinker.
which is a problem because I mean, especially now with social media on the rise, everybody can put out their thoughts, which some people shouldn't, but I digress. I know everyone has the freedom to, but some people don't need to say every little thing that comes to their mind. But nobody teaches people how to make intelligent thoughts.
Why? So with how education system works is obviously they're able to teach the new generation. Doesn't matter what me and you think or anyone older think. Whatever kind of agenda that needs to be pushed can be pushed and catered towards the next generation of workers.
Which is awful because people should be able to think and work for themselves.
Well, there's a couple of big things being pushed through the education system. I'm people can infer what I'm talking about. That is
Mhm.
a well, I'm trying to think how to word this. That was typically really frowned upon a long while ago. Just in general, it was a kind of a taboo thing you just don't talk about.
Mhm.
And like trying to the whole key phrase of being socially accepted with the whole concept of with this next generation of education stuff, making people feel feel like they're with the whole construct making everyone different and being proud of that, which is good. That's fine. However, it's it is covering the fact that it is pushing propaganda through with the new generation of people, and I have family members who are still in the K through 12,
Same here.
and the things I hear is wild.
I just think, like, the fact of the matter is they're try I see them trying to ban books, which I am 100% pro all literature needs to be said. There's some things that should be limited to children, so, like, they can't obviously read stuff like pornography or stuff that, like, goes into detail about sexual acts, which they're having cases of schools having books that do that.
Hmm.
But banning books to me is like the ultimate way of the government starting to slowly try and take control.
See, to go off of that. So I don't know how much history you know, but the glorious Prussian Empire took over Poland. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not well, it won't be the last in history. So you know what they did? Obviously, they couldn't get loyalty off of the people that just took over. They started integrating Prussian loyalty through the education system via history and kind of be loyal to the king.
Mhm.
And that construct was inspired the U.S. education system of constructing loyalty to the government and being as though I'm trying to formulate words, guys. Come on. But yeah, just trying to like uh what's the word? Not it's not loyalty. It's being
Subservient to the system.
serving it. Yeah, being a cog in the machine, as you will.
I just the US education system in a whole does teach a lot of fluff and things you don't even need to know versus like I feel like this is my personal opinion. The US education system is so flawed, we need to throw it out and redraw it. Because there are some valuable life skills that are not taught inside of high schools that probably should be. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of us wouldn't pay attention. But one of the biggest complaints I hear right now from people online is I may not know how to do my taxes, but I sure know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And like, it's good general knowledge to know a lot of things. But I think the problem comes in, and this is especially amplified in college. So I I'm a forensic biology major.
Mhm.
Billy, you were an art major at an
I
art school.
was. I was. Keyword
Was
was.
how much gen ed stuff did you have to take?
Um, it was a comp and a math class.
That was the only gen ed stuff you
Yes.
had to ever take.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's wild because you would think that, a science major would focus on that. Like just science, right?
Mm-hmm.
is amplified heavily in STEM majors, at least at my college, because we have 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, no, that's just a list of classes we take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Start. You just doing some quick math.
Um,
There are 14 courses that we must take. Okay?
mm-hmm.
You know how many courses we uh are taken through my college's gen ed program that we have to take that do not relate to our course material at all?
How much?
Probably a solid 30.
Okay, okay, so 30 out of what was the original number?
We have 14 required courses for, and I'm doing a specialized major.
14 required courses, and you have to take 30, and so 50%, give or take.
I'm not talking about 30 courses total. I'm talking about 30 gen ed courses.
30 gen ed, and then how many courses you need to take for your
Okay.
specific? Trying to get a
If,
percentage here.
yeah, so if I was taking uh if I was taking just like a biology major,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
that is only like 11, 12 courses that I have to take.
Okay.
And then going through college students typically take over their 8 semesters 32 courses. So I was maybe a little off with the 30 gen eds because I wasn't looking at that list.
So,
But
like I said, about 50,
12,
give or
12
take,
out of the 32 courses.
or 40%.
And if I do a little quick math here, that's 37.5% of your actual college work is only based off of your major. Everything
So,
else is based off of little doodads here and there.
so the issue that I would have to say is you were going to a
State
public.
school.
Yeah. The one I was going to was private.
Yeah, and a private school is definitely going to be more specialized,
Mm-hmm.
which I always think that just like I've seen some of the things that are portrayed at least as what other cultures do in their schools, and you seem to be able to specialize a little earlier. I agree that like how the US education system, one of the good things it does, because I don't want to rant completely about it,
Mm-hmm.
is that it just holds like a lot of general knowledge that people should learn. I at
Uh,
some point I feel like at least as a student, every student should learn obviously basic English and math skills. They should have a basic understanding of science. They should have a basic understanding of US history, living in the United States, and a basic understanding of world history. They should have every US student, I believe, should have to go through civics because that's not a mandated thing in most states. And a civics course is very important, I believe, to just have if you're going to have students going out and voting.
so the whole issue with that statement, with just all of it, of like what you believe would be important as a general knowledge, it's what's important is case by case, right? Because obviously, what's important today might not be important tomorrow.
Yeah,
For, hmm?
I believe that like a very good point with that would be a difference between like our parents' generation versus our generation. I think we should all have to take a basic computer science course
Yeah.
since technology is so prevalent.
My I know my parents had to take courses on how to use a typewriter.
And I don't know if my parents ever did.
Well, my parents are also older. Um, but also as a sense of like that, like what's use of a typewriter now?
True.
See, that was a trick question. The keyboard layout that you have in front of you right now is the same layout as a typewriter.
Yeah, I mean, those skills translate, but also, if you're taking a computer science course, you're most likely getting keyboard skills.
Yeah. Um. Also, the simple fact of like, I know when my grandfather was in school, he learned how to change oil. He learned how to fix a car.
Yeah, that'll probably be good knowledge for a
Uh,
lot of us now.
and there was a couple other things, but but during that time, that was all that was a very different time. Like with today, and I even through those years, uh, they don't teach people how to do their taxes. And if you don't do your tax, you get in a lot of legal trouble.
Yeah, the IRS is great.
So,
We're You guys need to do your taxes, but we're not gonna tell you how to do them. And if we know how much you owe, but you gotta figure that out.
hmm and a couple other stuff like that. Like, for example, like back like a lot, like during my grandfather's generation, home ec was very important for important to take for at that time was females because that's how it was catered back then.
Mhm.
Um, and like how like all this stuff, it's societal norms. I'd say is the issue with like standardizing something like that.
Yeah, I it's a very neat like, it's a very hard situation to describe what it should be because everyone's going into different paths of life.
Mhm.
But, I mean, there's a lot of things the US system does too that just, like versus other countries, how they do it. So, me and you both watch a lot of anime, right?
Yes.
So, have you ever noticed how, at least in the anime that focus primarily on, like, school life, one of the big things that all the students have to do is they have a week no matter the grade, they have a weekly rotation of who has to clean up the school and what chores they have.
I don't watch those kind of animes, but continue.
Well,
Know nothing about it.
I've seen a couple anime where they, like, kinda show it off a bit. A lot of Japanese schools, from at least how they portray, tend to force their students to clean up the school a bit.
hmm
They don't have just, like, a janitor to do it all for them. They have, like, "Oh, this week, these 2 are taking out the trash, these 2 are wiping up the floors,"
Okay.
stuff like that. And it's like a way to build pride in the school because you're taking care of it, plus it's teaching you just basic life skills to have.
Okay.
Now, the US education system, if you walk into any US public school, you are not going to see the children taking care of it.
That is truthful. Um.
Like, I take it as whenever there was that new school built by us where the devious lick challenge of TikTok came, and like the first week that the school was open, the kids were trying to steal as much stuff as they could from it and just take it off the walls.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Um. Well,
Like,
but
I'm not gonna say like that's college student age people haven't done dumb stuff like that. Like, I know a lot of people my age have gone out and they've been on their nice casual walk around like the area and they looked up at the bright red octagon and said, you know, that'll look great hanging up in my dorm. And then the stop sign is gone.
yeah. So I think most of the issues you're griping about also has to deal with a couple say about 100 years ago, give or take, the Rockefeller family. All right. You know how much money they've donated to not only public schools, but to colleges?
Oh, a hell of a lot.
Yes. I believe, I think it's 70. It could be higher. I'm going to lowball it. 70% of public schools were funded at some sort of percentage due to the Rockefeller Foundation. And with the chokehold of capital that they funneled into
Bless
the
you.
education system has really altered how they teach. Obviously, not to cultivate a nation of philosophers, but a nation of workers. And after that, if you've noticed every presidential election, it's always about doing the best for the kids, bettering the education system, doing this, that, and the other.
And
And
then nothing changes.
well, you get more standardized testing.
Yeah, and
They've
they lower the need, or like with standardized testing, they lower the score needed to even pass.
yeah. Even then, like with laws passing, some of them are understandable. Like when education, like public schools first started, you technically didn't need to go. A lot of people at the time were just very rural kids, hoping, being
We
homeschooled
needed,
and helping on the farm.
yeah, we
And then
need
they
that
passed
good old
laws,
child labor.
and well, it was family owned, so it wasn't really child labor at the time. And
I mean, it's
then
not officially
and
child
then and
labor.
they made it mandatory for children to go. Then made it
Mhm,
mandatory for them to pass elementary school. And then they kept upping it to all the way up to high school.
mhm. And then, they made it mandatory for schools to have a way for students to get lunch.
Actually, that's been a thing for a while.
Yeah, I know. But I'll say whenever they start elementary school, you're telling me that whenever the elementary schools were first mandated, they were not telling these poor families that they had to send their kids with food. It,
Um, that was actually a thing for a while. It's been a long while, actually. I say, I forget when it was actually enrolled, but it wasn't until the free food part. It's kind of a newer concept, like 20 years, give or take,
Mhm.
depending on where you live. Um, However, it is the whole thing is they are training people not to become poets, not to become musicians, not to become philosophers. They want plumbers. They want factory workers. They want people being able to do mindless tasks that are
Good.
easily replaceable. You know?
Now they're just trying to pump out as many workers as they can who are actually, you know, not going to think about their rights and what they're worth. Because if you see the upgrowing climate around workers our age, there's been a lot of controversy in the are in like the climate
Mm-hmm.
between the old generation and the new generation, and it's all based on wages.
I mean,
And I've seen the argument from our generation side pretty well documented because there's a lot of talk about how with the rise of inflation, the rise of pay for our minimum wage hasn't increased at the same amount.
yeah.
And then the poverty line is like raising up at a faster rate than it should be.
Oh yeah, that is absolutely true. Um, However, I want you to think about this for a second. How many people do you know that want to be teachers, want to be astronauts, want to be
That's a bad
mechanics?
question for me because my group of like people I play in a band with at my school are all wanting to be engineers, mechanics, astronauts,
Okay,
and teachers.
okay. But how many people do you know, just in general?
Probably like a solid 30.
Okay, and how many people do you know, my guy?
Probably like a solid 35
If you know 35 people.
that I actually regularly talk to.
Okay. Oh, it's this. Well, obviously, a major has some influence on that. So,
Yeah, and the fact that I go to a college campus and a lot of the people I talk to on a regular basis are all there to, study for that type of stuff.
yes, but on average, those those kind of lines of work have diminished once in like the younger generation. They all want to be influencers.
True. That's
Oh,
the rise of a new popular job. Also, there's a very steady decline in the people who want to be teachers.
yes, yes. So the whole shtick with that is the whole thing of corporates taking over with that kind of thing. It's still not getting away from the loop of some sort of work, nine 9 to 5 slave clocking in hours, just being a cog in the machine.
At what point can we actually really get freedom from that? It's a very hard thing to be, you know, self-employed, have your business run successfully, and, be able to support even just yourself, not even taking account if you want to have a family.
Well, with that being stated, I'll go off of that saying the system is leveraged against doing that due to taxes, due to uh what is just laws in general and mandates,
Mhm.
and sometimes you just need to get a whole bunch of just certifications to do certain practices. Even though you don't need education, you just need certifications. Like I think, like for like a restaurant, you need to have a license for selling alcohol,
Uh,
and then just having being food safe and just getting all those certifications so you're not closed down.
mhm. Or like if you're trying to go away from like the whole like system America has set up, you probably have to homeschool your kid and you have to have a license for that. And then you also
Okay.
have, because parents who want to homeschool their kids, they have to get certified in that, even though they don't have to have the education for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to have somebody come by like once a week to check on the child's progress. So you can't even really be free from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
Uh,
mm,
to me, like the most free you could ever get from like the whole system is to go off the grid by yourself and live by yourself. But to do all of that requires a tremendous amount of money and work to at first to be able to support yourself.
not necessarily.
Well, I mean, if you're going to
Be-
be living off the grid and you want to have a comfortable life off the grid,
See, you
you
added in a funny word. You said comfortable. Just get a stick, get a sack on it, and just start hopping on trains.
yeah, Bill, you're going to be a hobo traveling across
listen,
America.
listen, man. You can see a lot of beautiful places.
They'll legally change your name from Bill to Billy Joe, the hobo.
I'm,
You wanna
I'm
grab a banjo at some point along there too, strumming along, or maybe like a harmonica,
just have a
just sitting on the back of the train.
just have a cup of beans, man. Just have a can of beans. That is your dinner. Hey, but
Alright, so back to more reasons why Sebastian hates the US education
Jeez.
system.
Jeez.
Uh, I hate that they kept or I don't like that they keep lowering the standard for what it needs to graduate. You
Mhm.
should be able to hold some sort of standard if you want your kid if you want this generation to keep improving, because that's what is supposed to be the goal of school, is to improve uh each individual's knowledge so they graduate out of high school and are more and more prepared to take on the world. Or as the US education system says, to take on the workforce. But they keep lowering the standards. Like
Like,
whenever
you sorry.
whenever I was back in middle school to be able to move from grade to grade at your end of the year testing, you need to score at least a 3 on a scale of 1 to 5 on each of your tests.
Mhm.
Whenever my little brother went through the same schooling in middle school, he needed to get a 2 on the same test.
Yeah.
A 2 was getting a 40%.
Mhm.
That should not be an acceptable standard for moving people from grade to grade. I'm sorry, I get that there's going to be students who struggle, but we need people to actually have the common sense and general knowledge to succeed in the world before they should be allowed to move on. You don't want your doctors to be raised off of TikTok and YouTube.
Well, funny you mentioned that. Funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I know the
So,
online schooling med school
s-
epidemic.
so when I went to college, right? You know how much YouTube videos they gave us?
A lot.
Not just for artistic stuff, just even non-artistic. They just YouTube video. Go, enjoy, learn. But
A lot.
but the whole shtick is, I have to say, is knowledge that you're talking about should be seeked. Knowledge and stuff like that is free everywhere. Rather, it's from a library, which those are still governmentally ran, or just online information.
Well, I agree that knowledge should be seeked, but I'm saying we should have at least a strong enough base because I remember those tests. Those tests were not very hard.
But you have to remember, the whole goal is to have someone clocking in to your local McDonald's and flipping some burgers. You just
I
need to
do
hear when
like
the ding
the
happens, when the fryer hits, and just, you know, take out the fries, put them in the little McDonald's bag, and hand them out to the happy customer.
I
That,
do like me a good quarter pounder. I guess we do need some people for that.
and I mean, other than that, and people going to Walmart and
Ooh,
working there.
we don't talk about what goes on in Walmarts right now.
Yeah. Um.
To all our Walmart employee listeners out there, I'm sorry.
But I mean, that is that is just like the overarching issue, is that they're not needed. How many people do you, like, how many jobs do you know that needs to know how to read a graduated cylinder?
Uh, Not a lot. That is a very specific piece of knowledge to know.
How
But
many?
I also believe that it is very useful for people to understand how science gets discovered, so we don't have problems with people being like, with I'm about to call some people groups out. Flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, uh, anti-evolutionary people. All three of those are very, very stupid ideas. Because I'll break it down. Flat Earth. We have scientific proof in many ways that the Earth is not flat. Any of your experiments have been manufactured to prove that the Earth is flat, and they do not work in any sort of sense. They typically prove against it. Anti-vax. Anti. Vaccines do not cause autism. There is no sign of that. Vaccines are there to inject a small amount of the virus or bacteria into your system so that your system is able to develop the antibodies to fight it. That is how a vaccine works. Vaccines go through rigorous study. Why the COVID vaccine was able to move out so fast was because they had much stronger funding than any other vaccine has ever gotten. Um, Evolution is a theory. Evolution is observable that we can now see in the natural world. You you going from yourself, how your parents looked, to yourself looks different. That is evolution.
I
There we
mean,
go.
I think that's more of genes, genetics, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
Evolution is the change in a species over time.
that's
We look different than how people look 20 years or 200 years ago. I, we
fair
Our
enough.
body structures are different than people 200 years ago. We are slowly losing the pinky toe. Your small toe is not needed by the body. There
Yes.
has been a study going on that it seems that that toe is starting to get smaller and smaller, and soon enough, it's going to regress to the point where people don't have only have 4 toes because that's all that's needed for balance.
Jeez.
Because the point of your toes are to help hold you balanced.
But yeah, there is
But
a
people knew how to read scientific papers or understood science and how it worked, we wouldn't have problems with those groups.
I don't think there's necessarily.
I don't like willful and ignorance.
I mean, sure, that's fair, but with the whole education system, within that regards, I really don't think that the conspiracies. I don't think those would go hand in hand. I have no evidence to support my claim on that
There's
because,
always going to be conspiracies.
well, with that kind of conspiracy theory, I feel like that's more people who are somewhat somewhat smart, just not. What's the word I'm
If
looking for?
intelligent people using archaic intelligence to try and argue for their point when there's been
That's
research that completely denies it.
yeah. I would say with more of the issues being, if people were not educated enough, they probably wouldn't think about stuff like that.
I mean, true, but you also have to take into mind that people hear headlines all the time, and people hear headlines that they're going to form opinions,
Hmm.
and some of those opinions may be radicalized by political ideas, but at the end of the day, they should have the basic knowledge to understand here's how science works, here's what we did, here's what we found out, here's what could further go along and maybe possibly deny our claims.
Hmm.
That is how science worked 500, 600 years ago. There was even like, so, little history lesson for y'all. Have y'all heard, or Bill, do you know who Sir Francis Bacon is?
Uh, not to my general knowledge.
Sir Francis Bacon was the man who discovered or who implemented the scientific method.
Okay. Yep.
So what Sir Francis Bacon did was this was in the prime time of alchemy.
Hmm.
Everybody wanted to turn copper into gold.
Fool's gold.
They were like, yes, the elements of the universe, fire, water, earth, and air. We're going to base our medicine off of this. We're going to base our uh, thought processes off of this. We're going to do the whole thing because there's this thing called the Great Chain of Being, where alchemy predates that the world is made up of 4 basic elements. Everything that goes beyond that, it becomes more complex, and the more complex something is, the more it is worth. There is a tiny bit of racism built into that system where specifically white men were at the top of that, underneath God and angels and all that. Then it was white women, and then it was any skin tone.
Mm-hmm.
But the basic idea that Sir Francis Bacon got ticked off with was people were posting these papers, be like, "Yes, I did it. I made copper into gold, and then here was my process," and people were just accept it. Well, Sir Francis Bacon was like, "Nah, I'm gonna test you on that. Would follow it, wouldn't get the same results. Got ticked." So he was like, "That's it." He was a well-known figure at the time, so he implemented a system where people were forced to follow a certain method and present their research in a certain way in order for any of it to be seen as valid. This is what led us to go from alchemy to chemistry. And people just now don't understand that. And also, there's besides people not understanding how the scientific method works and how things are forced to go through for papers to even be allowed to be published, ignoring the corporate policies of some of these things, because the autism is caused by vaccines thing was actually paid by, I forget if it was an individual or a company. That whole rumor started based off of somebody paying that scientist to publish fraudulent research.
Mm-hmm. So, well, they got their money's worth. I'll say that. Um, yeah, that is well, that's just mostly with the sciences. I mean, obviously scientific method and all that.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, a lot of people just argue against science, which is, to me,
it's just a
it's such a.
theory.
You know what I hate about that saying? Theories are just allowed to be like, oh, I could look and be like, yeah, that light, it bends this way
Mm-hmm.
instead of going that way. But that's just a theory. That is not what a theory is in scientific terms. And I know you know this because you've done science classes. There, what I would have said would have been a hypothesis.
Yep.
A theory is whatever people have ran multiple tests over and they see a continued pattern, but they can't say that anything into turns it into a law. Gravity is a law. Evolution is a theory. There's a crap ton of evidence that shows that evolution is real
Mm-hmm.
and that this has occurred. We can't make it a law yet. Gravity is just, it is observed in no matter what case, and we have to use it.
Yeah. Um.
I am very passionate about this because that's what I'm going into.
Yeah. I can tell. You're conformist. Going, following. That
Right,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is what it is. Your line of it is your line of work. What you're wanting to do. Which you do what you want, man. You do what you.
Yeah.
Well, you telling. Hold up. You're telling me you don't want to go after after speaking what we've spoken about and talking about how school conforms people to like a certain way of being a hard worker. You don't want to become an influencer making weird sounds on I think it's Instagram live and
Oh, come
reacting
on. You
to.
don't want to be the TikTok NPCs?
Yeah, that's what I was actually getting to. Is it TikTok or is it Instagram?
It's TikTok.
Oh, damn.
Ice cream, yummy, yummy, so good.
Yeah.
I saw one of those guys. People clipped it. It was the best one. They kept sending him like hot dog emojis, and he like turned on like a Terminator voice. He's like, "Maximum glizzy, time to go into overdrive." It was so weird.
But would you agree that society is rewarding dumb people? I was like, let
Yes.
me rephrase. Let me rephrase for dumb people. Yeah, I'll just go with dumb people.
Yes. Okay, so here's my take on this. All right, so back 30 years ago, social media wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nobody cared about social media. The only way to get money by doing practically nothing was to be a celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
And celebrities still had to work hard because they had to push out quality product or nobody would know. I, and let's look at the world now with social media. There's some celebrities who still push out like quality stuff. The quality, I believe, of a lot of entertainment has gone down over time, has been simplified, and doesn't actually make you think or have any underlying values. There's a lot of media that has been pushed out that's just fluff. But now, with the advent of social media and the idea of influencers, everybody thinks they can be a celebrity.
Yeah, I mean,
And people allow people to become celebrities by doing little dances.
yeah, I mean, obviously, that is how, that is what's going on.
I mean, we may be a bit hypocritical by being YouTubers and saying this.
It's a podcast. It's a podcast. No, but are we dancing? Are we doing Fortnite dances?
I mean, we could.
Fuck. The views. The
The
views.
views!
No, it is. No, but the statement I'm making is the amount of lowbrow humor and just lowbrow in general, just content is I is just being cultivated in a sense to more encourage the lack of into of higher
Intelligence.
education, in a sense of, would you rather, and I'm not even gonna say would you rather, most people would rather, do doom scroll than open a
Mhm.
book. Doesn't even have to be an educational book.
You see, and that's the thing I think we could see as a big problem. Because what age are people starting this at?
The iPad kid generation.
The iPad kids. It's starting at when kids are really young, and if kids are being real, I don't know about you, Bill, but when I was like 5 years old, I was out playing in the cul-de-sac with the neighbor kids.
I mean, maybe not 5, but I'd say so.
Now, there's 5-year-olds who would rather spend all day sitting on a tablet because of the instant gratification it gives, and they're scrolling through social media. And if you have to think about it, what are kids gonna or TikTok's gonna promote people doing dances because that's what TikTok originally
Mm-hmm.
was from.
But the dancing
These
20s.
kids,
Tell
these
me.
kids are going to give a bunch of views because that's what they have been taught to
Mm-hmm.
see. These kids are then going to grow up and be like, "What's the point of school whenever Ninja can get Ninja can just play and be good at video games, and he can make more than my parents make?"
Let me hit you with a quick conspiracy theory. The the Roaring 20s.
Oh my god!
Everyone was dancing back then. Dancing was popular in culture and everything like that. Yeah, that was weird. Um,
Yeah, sorry guys for the cut. Recording problems.
yeah.
We're back though.
It's definitely government agents creeping and cutting, recording, cutting what they don't want us, want you guys to hear, man. 100%, 100%.
Jesus.
so so stupid. But yeah,
All
but
right, back to me ranting about school again.
no, but as I was saying, the play devil's advocate. Um, For me, I started gaming at 4, and it could be just one of those things. Is like a generational. I see. I should say like a generational thing to where parents and the generation as a whole like discourages certain like activities because it like hurts your brain, do all that. That could just be what this is. There's a possibility. Like growing up for me it was video games. For my parents' generation, it was comics and
Watching
stuff.
the telly.
Hmm.
Watching the telly.
No, no, no. It was more of the It was definitely comics and stuff like that. That was more of my like grandfather's generation,
Gotcha,
I'd
gotcha.
say. But then
You see,
again, that was new back then, so.
you see, there are things that we have done that have been socially that are a lot smarter, such as our generation doesn't open the door for random strangers anymore.
What do you mean you don't do that?
Yeah, Bill, you want to get killed by a serial killer,
I guess, yeah.
or get stuck at the door with the it's the Mormons, right? No, it's the whatever their religion is. Stands at the door and they're like,
It's Mormons.
Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?"
Yeah, that is definitely I wouldn't say that's smarter, it's just a wise decision.
There's
Because
that. There's a not letting kids just go and roam around and do whatever they want. For the most part, parents don't do that anymore. They don't let their kids roam and just be like, "Be back by 8," and just kick them out of the house at 2 and say, "Don't come back."
yeah. So that's a double-edged sword because typically they just give them like a piece of technology, and that is, I would say, not more dangerous, but it is probably not as good as being out and about. There
Yeah,
is, I think there'd be more of a fine line between going out and being in like at least depending where you live, um, kind of how safe it is.
yeah, there's definitely a safety aspect of it. 'Cause, I mean, I wasn't completely cut off. I pretty much whenever I was in, like, 5th grade was told I was allowed to stay inside of the neighborhood.
Um, because with unsupervised access to electronics, I'm just grab an example. You know what's educating the kids? YouTube kids.
There's YouTube kids, TikTok kids.
That's a thing.
No, I just thought there's kids watching TikTok and
No, no, no. YouTube kids as like the platform.
oh,
Do
yeah,
you have
YouTube
you ever
kids
seen what's
just
on there?
I have seen whenever I make videos that I can market as for kids, and I'm
Okay,
like,
we're
"No."
gonna talk about that because we can go on a we can we can talk about it. It is something. It is it is a whole thing. The rabbit hole goes.
Oof.
Uh,
YouTube Kids does not seem like a great platform to from what
hmm? Well, we'll talk about it next week. I'll definitely say
Alright. Well, guys,
that.
that's been another episode of from the Sewer Rat Podcast. We'll see you again next week. Remember to like, subscribe, comment down below. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. And just remember, if you subscribe to join the Rat Colony, you'll become
One
one
of
of
us.
us.
One
One
of
of
us.
us.
One of
One
us.
of us. Alright, y'all. Have a great day.
Peace.